Hi everyone, Plastic EP here from Melbourne, and at least it's not raining here. A big introduction to Kit O'Toole. How are you, Kit?
Doing great. How are you, Plastic?
I'm all right. You look great too. You made a big effort today to come on the show, and I appreciate it.
Well, I'm thrilled, and I've never been interviewed by someone from Australia before, so I am really excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm upside down at the moment.
You look right side up to me.
Kit, I'm going to ask you, that's an Irish name, yeah?
Indeed, and my mother's maiden name is Delaney, so I'm 100% Irish.
That's fantastic. Now let me ask you something else. The most famous O'Toole I know is Peter O'Toole.
Yep, indeed.
And the tools in my shed.
Oh man.
And also, I've got to say, I feel like I'm in one of those Western movies. Like, I'm walking down the main street with my guns and I'm going to the bar and I turn around, I look to the left and I go, how you going, Kit? Now, I just got Charles Rosenet on. This man is a live wire. I love the guy. And you know what he said? Kit is it. I mean, there you go. Do you need a bigger intro than that? Kit
my gosh. And the man with 3 exclamation points after his name. I mean, that is really an endorsement. I really appreciate that.
Now, while we got him there, I must tell everybody in the world about the Lennon 80 anniversary thing that he's got going in Connecticut. You familiar with that?
Absolutely. I've been hearing all about it.
Right. Go through what you know. Let's test you. What do you know about the event?
Well, I mean, I've just been hearing it's of course, a celebration of his life, and knowing that it's Charles running it, it is going to be quite a celebration. He's been running these events since, gosh, I think the 70s. He goes way back with these. So sure of all the details yet, but I've heard that it's going to be quite the event.
I believe it's called Lennon 80. Now, I've got some VIPs on as well. I've got Eva. How are you, Eva? Say a big hello to Gary because we know the guy's busy. Can't wait for the next interview. I just love those people.
Oh, they are the best. Hi, Eva and Gary.
So we're in good company, and it's good that they're there texting as well. And I got to say, Charles just had his birthday recently, and this is my first opportunity to say happy birthday, Charles. And also, I've got my big birthday bash happening on the 10th of July. It's going to be on the internet, going out to America, and you're from Illinois in Chicago, which is famous for the blues.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. We are famous for we didn't invent the blues, but we electrified it. So,
And do they have a Chicago festival at some time during the year?
And I'm sorry?
A blues festival. Do they have a blues festival there?
Yes, we do. Unfortunately, it's canceled this year because of the pandemic. But yes, we normally do have a big festival in the summer each year, and we get some of the great, both local and nationally famous blues artists. It's quite a party. So next year it'll be back. But usually it's one of the highlights of the summer here.
That's fantastic. As I said, 10th of July. My birthday is actually on the 9th of July. But because of the US, I'm sort of having a 2-day party, and this is the event here, not that it matters. It's a ripper. Plastic EP's birthday party. It'll be live everywhere. And as I said, that's one important event. But the one in November, Lennon 80, by Charles Rosenet's running that in Connecticut. Not to be missed. I want the world to know about that big event because it's huge. And you know what? Quite honestly, they won't let us fly out of Australia.
Yeah.
But if I could have gone, I'd go. You know what I mean? I'd just go. I'd pay my own way and just rock up there and find Charles. But at the moment, we're not going anywhere. And my problem is I've got too many things in advance. Anyway, this interview isn't about me, Kit, my partner, my friend. it's about you. And now you've written 2 fantastic books, 1 Beatle book, 1 Michael Jackson book. So tell me about the 2 books from the covers, and then we'll get into it.
All right. Well, this one right here is my Beatles book. This is Songs We Were Singing, Guided Tours Through the Beatles' Lesser Known Tracks. And this one is about the lesser known songs. I love all the big hits. Who doesn't love Let It Be? Who doesn't love Hey Jude? But I wanted to talk about the lesser known songs.
Of
I
course.
wanted, I love I Call Your Name.
Yep.
Ask Me Why. I love those kind of songs and wanted to talk about the songs, the B-sides,
Exactly.
the album tracks. Those songs are important as well in looking at how the Beatles developed as artists. And so in this book, I talk about those songs, how they were written, how they were recorded, and why they matter. How they figure in their artistic development and why we should still listen to them today.
Kit, I got to tell you, that book there to write something different from everybody, that's what I like. I like people do individual things, something different. I've got so many questions about that book. Now, let's move up a notch. Show me the book on Michael Jackson. You're the only author I know that writes about the Beatles and Michael Jackson. You're multi-talented. What's this about?
Well, thank you. Well, my other great love, other than the Beatles, I love all different kinds of music, but I also love R&B. I love that as well, R&B, soul, and Michael Jackson FAQ, All That's Left to Know About the King of Pop. This is a book about his music, his art, and I make a big point of saying this is not about, it's not a biography. It's not about his life. It's about his music and art. It's, if you want a traditional biography, there are other books out there like that. And it is also not about the trashy, sensational stuff. I did not want to write a book about that. It is not my interest. This is strictly the artistic stuff.
That's what we want.
Exactly. Enough of the other stuff.
That's
So,
it.
yep. So this traces his artistic development in his career from the Jackson 5 through his death and a couple of the posthumous releases that came out after his death. And it's about his music, how he developed as a singer, a dancer, how he also, of course, became a pioneer in music video. It was a real labor of love.
That's right.
It really was. It took a long time to research.
That looks thick. How thick is the spine there?
Yeah, it's thick.
And I'm going to say, we're not into sensationalism in this show. No. We're
Absolutely
not into
not.
headlines. No, we're not into other things. Anyway, a big shout out to Jim Thatcher. He says, hey, Plastic, new fan of yours from New Jersey. That's fantastic.
Nice.
How are you, Jim? Thanks for tuning in. Now, while we got Michael Jackson there, that's a perfect opportunity for me to show you 2 things that are owned by Michael from the Michael Jackson era. This is the Victory album. Look at that.
Wow.
And watch. You open it up. Gatefold sleeve. Look.
Nice. Yep. That was their 1984 reunion. And of course, they toured behind that as well. I have a chapter on that in my book, The Making of That Album and the tour.
Now, this is the only picture this guy owned, and I think it's rare.
Really nice. Yes, I've not seen that in person.
I've never seen it myself because I saw it and I picked it up because I thought, hey, that's rare.
Yeah.
So I thought, I'll buy it, and I needed it for this interview.
Yep. You were psychic. You just knew you had to have it.
Let's find Michael. There he is.
Yep. There he is. With the sparkling glove. That's right.
Billy Jean's not my dad.
Yep.
And I've got to say what it says here, right? Before we move on to the Beatle book. Let me get this right. See what it says there? Official. It's actually official.
That's right. Exactly, and that's yeah, and as I said, that was the last album they all worked on together, and there's a whole chapter on that in my book because it was not the most harmonious project, shall we say, that they worked on. It was, because Michael is. I mean, this was done at the height of his popularity. It was the height of Thriller mania, and it was. It was just he wasn't exactly into doing that album entirely, but it was still a hit album. Still,
Yeah.
sold a lot of copies, and then they toured behind it, and but yeah, that is a very cool
Kid,
picture disc.
hang on and make sure you got your seatbelt on because I feel like I'm driving my car.
Oh boy, so you had to get a Beatles reference in there too. Very nice. I see what you did there.
Anyway, listen, do you like my background there? A bit psychedelic today.
I do. That is very trippy. I like that.
Thank you so much. Now, let's get straight onto the Beatle book and tell me the title and let's get into some of these songs. And my first question is, I want to know about the song Rain, and I'm going to wait and see if Charles Rosenay comes up with a song he wants to know. If he does, he can text it. So let's say the name of the book again there, Kit.
Absolutely. It's Songs We Were Singing, Guided Tours Through the Beatles' Lesser Known Tracks.
Amazing.
And yep, and it actually started from a column that I wrote and still write for the site somethingelse.reviews.com called Deep Beatles. And it started, as I said, it was just a passion of mine that I really wanted to start a column talking about these songs that I feel get overlooked. And I know a lot of people say, well, are there really Beatles songs that are overlooked? And I would argue, yes, because, I know as hardcore fans, we tend to say, well, we know them all, and maybe we do. But I think there are some that are just, you don't hear them very much on the radio, or they're just sort of glossed over in favor of some of the bigger hits. Now, Rain, is certainly well known, but I mean, is sort of an example. First of all, let's talk about Ringo's drumming.
The best in the world is on that track.
I mean, Ringo has consistently said that he thinks it's one of his best drumming performances, and who can disagree? I mean,
Exactly.
I think, and in fact, there's a chapter in here where I talk about Ringo as a drummer, talking about underrated, because often he is, I think, unfairly dismissed as a drummer, and which is ridiculous. And I have a whole chapter in here where I have the top 10 underrated Ringo drumming performances. But Rain is certainly one of those where I think he demonstrates what a incredible drummer he was. It also is a great example, Rain, of how the Beatles and George Martin were becoming adept at experimenting in the studio with sound. I mean, this was at a time when the Beatles were transitioning from the mop top era into what I call Beatles 2.0, where they were moving away from the more of the traditional sound, the sort of straightforward pop, I would say. And you are hearing them experimenting with John's voice on this
Yeah.
track. I mean, he sounds otherworldly on
Tomorrow
this.
Never Knows is the first of the example of total. Rain doesn't compete in vocals to Tomorrow Never Knows. Because
Right.
that's a track that the sound on that and his voice, that's what it was. Something completely different.
Exactly. And I would argue too that Rain to this day, along with Tomorrow Never Knows, sounds like nothing else out there. I mean, this was a song that was way ahead of its time. Way ahead. I mean, I just really, I can't think of another song that's like it. Another reason that it's also ahead of its time, of course, is the video. I mean, even today, I think the camera angles, the way it was shot, that along with Strawberry Fields Forever, of course.
Exactly. I was going to say them jumping out of the tree and the piano strings. It's weird.
It is.
I am the walrus. When I'm 1967, I'm a Monkeys fan in my school, elementary school, and I hear the song "I'm the Walrus," and I thought it came from Mars. I swear to God, it was just something that never heard in my life. So it's just way out.
Exactly. Well, and I think that's another thing that's important to say about a track like Rain or Tomorrow Never Knows or Strawberry Fields Forever. I mean, that's another thing that made the Beatles who they were, because they were not afraid to challenge their audience. I mean, I remember talking to a good friend of mine who was a first generation Beatles fan, and I said to her, what was the reaction, when you and your friends first heard Strawberry Fields Forever? I mean, even now, that is just such a complex track. I mean, it's just, going from, I mean, this is a band that, just a few years before was, doing I Want to Hold Your Hand, great pop. I mean, I love the song. I'm not in any way dismissing it, but going from that to Strawberry Fields Forever in just a few short years, I said, what did you and your friends think? And she said, that was a song, and I'm sure Rain falls into this category a bit too, that she said it kind of split the fans into two categories. She said there were those that said, whoa, this is too weird. I just don't see where they're going with this. I'm going to head off. I'm going with the other pop groups. I just can't deal. But then she said there were the others that said, I don't know quite what they're doing, but I kind of trust them. They haven't steered us wrong so far. I'm going to follow them and see where they go. And
That was a good thing to say. You know what? Not only did it split the fans, but the actual song split in half. It's two halves of two parts of songs. And I just got to say, you may know David Bedford from Liverpool.
Sure, I know him.
Okay, we just did a report called the Bedford Report, and I asked people to go to Plastic EP Live TV and look at that interview. He goes through three songs, In My Life, Penny Lane, and Strawberry Fields. And the meanings to the song, he describes every single meaning, and I sat there and I was fascinated at what he told me about those three songs. And I still haven't been able to sleep from what he told me, the descriptions of what the song actually means. For example, he said Strawberry Fields, most people think it's the gates at the front, but John Lennon used to be at the back and he used to climb the 7-foot wall. So he goes into depth of everything.
Yep, absolutely. And that's another thing that I found, in writing this book, and I'm sure, other people, that's the other thing that made them so special as songwriters, that their songs may have seemed like one thing on the surface, but when you really dig in and find out about the history of the background of these songs, it's amazing when you find out the inspiration, behind these songs.
Clues. I was looking for clues on their albums.
Yeah, exactly. And the other thing that I really enjoyed about writing this book is, one of my personal favorites in this is I Call Your Name, because I was always fascinated by that instrumental break. I'm like, why does it go into that different, rhythm pattern? And that, in the instrumental, I always thought, what is that? So I, went and researched it, and that's when I learned about blue beat, or an early form of ska. And did this research about how it became big in England, and of course ska, an early form of reggae. And I just was amazed at how many kinds of music and genres that the Beatles would integrate into their music. Country, ska, British music hall. That's another one that I'm fascinated by. Like with When I'm 64, that's the most obvious example, but there are some others as well. There's even a genre called swamp pop, which was popular in parts of New Orleans. I mean, they would get these records, these these obscure records via import in London and Liverpool, and they would just soak in all these different influences and put it into their music. Just fascinating, and that's what makes the Beatles so fun to listen to and research, and why I'll never run out of material to write for my articles and for books like this, because they just, as I said, they were sponges. They would just take all these influences, but then turn them into their own sound, and
That's
come
right.
out with these songs. Just amazing.
Kit, I've got to ask you, have you got All My Lovin' in the book?
I don't think I've gotten to that yet. That's probably going to be volume 2, but of course, that is an amazing song. I mean,
Exactly. I've got to say, to me, that is the number one song of 1964. I can't do anything about it, but it should have been released as a single. It was never released as a single.
Yep.
That is one of the, and I said in another interview, if there was one song that I wanted to have written in 1964, it would be All My Lovin'. It's the most perfect word song, the most perfect sounding song. It is like perfection. The only other song I can put that's close to that is by the Hollies, Sorry Suzanne. That's another song that starts perfect, finishes perfect in words and music. They're the two.
Yep, absolutely. And isn't it amazing that All My Loving was never a single, because Paul still performs it in concert. And I agree. I think it should have been a single, because it has that distinct sound. And I love how one of the things, I'm a associate editor of Beatle Fan magazine, and I did an article years ago about the way Beatles, I mean, it just they thought out all their songs so carefully. And one of the things they really thought about was how to start their songs. Because think about it, when you're on the radio, you have to grab the listener immediately, right? Because you have to break through all the noise. You've got to make yourself stand out through all the other pop records that are out there. So, like, of course, the ultimate example being Hard Day's Night with that chord. I mean,
that's my favorite song. Just the chord.
Yep, that chord.
I've got to say, in 64, when that song came out and you heard that chord, it was like a shock. You never heard it. And when he goes into it, that's one of the greatest songs. But while I'm just saying that, I'll just talk about Can't Buy Me Love. It was George Martin that said to Paul, sing the intro of the song. Give it an intro. Can't Buy Me Love. Give that little intro at the start of the song.
Yep, exactly. But, they thought very carefully. They'd either, start it abruptly, they would just immediately get into it. Or, there would be like a chord starting or a drum beat or something, to immediately grab the listener to make, or in the case of Hard Day's Night, it was like, I do a presentation called The Top 10 Beatles Sounds That Changed the World. And that's number one, that chord, because, and I say that it's like, the shot, the shot heard around the music world. I mean, it was, and it really makes the listeners just, say, what the hell was that? But it makes you stand up and take notice and listen. That's exactly what they wanted.
I just got to say this, kid. I've done a show called The 10 Worst Monkey Songs. And I intend to do one, the 10 best Beatles songs and the 10 worst Beatles songs. Now, since you're here, please tell me, in your opinion, the worst Beatles song that comes in at number one.
Oh, I thought this was coming as I saw some of your other shows. So I knew this.
You did some research, did you?
I did some research, so I figured this was coming.
And I like that. Somebody that pre-plans. There's very few people do that.
And I know, and before I answer, I'm going to say, I know people think I'm going to say Mr. Moonlight, and I'm the one that, I'm actually a defender of Mr. Moonlight.
I like Mr. Moonlight.
Yeah, good.
I like Mr. Moonlight a lot.
I mean, because that's what everybody always says, and I'm not one of them. Yeah, I think, I mean, that talk about song beginnings. that vocal of John's at the beginning, that is, in my opinion, I mean, like goosebumps. When
but I like the organ in it.
Yeah.
That's
I
like
mean,
8 days a week. I love it. Anyway, what
yeah,
is the number one worst song?
So I guess, and I hate to admit it, but I do tend to skip over Long, Long, Long. I've just never been
Do you
able
want me to
exactly.
guess? Do you want me to guess?
Yep. Oh, what?
Do you want me to take a guess at your worst Beatles song?
Oh, I said Long, Long, Long is mine. I already said it.
Is that the song? Where's that come from? I've never heard of it.
Oh, it's a White Album. It's the White
What's
Album.
it called again?
Long, Long, Long.
Oh, sorry. I thought you said Long White Line.
No.
That's what I heard. And I'm going, what's that?
It's a deep track.
Long White Line. I'm thinking, is it the road or something? Like, you know that song, Let's Do It in the Road? I thought it was at the B-side of Let's Do It on the Road. Long White Line.
No, Long, Long, Long. And I hate to say it. I love George Harrison. I really do. I've just never been able to fully embrace that song. It's just, and I do think it sounded better in the White Album remix. The remastering from a couple of years ago. It does sound better there. But I hate to say it. Whenever I play the White Album, I skip that track. I just
got to say, with the Monkees, guess what? I had two other people with me.
Mm-hmm.
And we came in with the number one worst Monkey song as The Day I Fall in Love, where Davey talks off the More of the Monkeys album. And not only was it 1, 2, 3, the same choice, and we never spoke about our choices, but Charles Resonate was typing in his choice, and we went from a triple to a quadruple on the same. What show on the net comes out with 4 people that are specialists that come up with the same answer? That is like winning the lottery.
Wow, boy, that's amazing. And I'm kind of surprised. I don't mind that song that much. I don't know. It's not my all-time favorite, but
let me give you an example. If I'm playing a Monkey CD and that's on it, it usually gets flung out my window as I'm driving. And it's the only song I know that can put Plastic EP to sleep within 30 seconds. If I need to sleep, I just whack it on and I'm gone. Because it's just like, it's the worst.
Oh, my God.
It was all right in 1967 when everyone was 12 years old.
Yeah.
It did its job back then, but not now.
Doesn't age well.
It's gone. I can't stand it. Makes me want to get the CD and break it.
But that's what I was thinking of when I thought you were going to ask me that question. I thought, okay, what song do I honestly skip over every time I hear it? And I wasn't going to say Revolution 9 because that's too easy. I mean, that's a different kind of thing. That doesn't really count.
Number nine. What's the greatest Beatles song? I got to get the advice from you now because I got to be geared up for when we do things. What's the number one Beatles song? Come on, give me the.
Absolutely. Tomorrow Never Knows. I think
it's
number one. I think
that would be my choice.
Yeah,
Hard Day's Night, as you said, with the power chord.
I mean that. Oh no, and I cannot argue with that at all. But Tomorrow Never Knows. Over the years, for me, that is the most inventive, mind-blowing. I remember doing again that presentation on top 10 Beatles sounds, and I did it at the Fest for Beatles Fans in Los Angeles back in 2014, and they had a particularly great sound system. I mean, big speakers, and I was talking about Tomorrow Never Knows and the use of like that wonderful sound effect of the seagulls and everything in the middle of it, and that song came over the speakers. And I'll never forget, I mean, everybody in the room, me included, just froze listening to it. And I just, stopped the presentation.
Yeah, but if I want that record and I don't want to hear it and I want that sound effect, I just go to the beach. Take a bag of chips, all the seagulls coming, it's the same thing.
But
I've got to say hello to Raymond Williams out there. Now, I just want to ask you, we can talk all Beatles all night.
Yes.
Like a Hard Day's Night. Tell me now where they can get your Beatle book.
Easiest way to get it is Amazon. You can just go on Amazon. You can either search my name, Kid O'Toole, or you can just search for songs we were singing, guided tours through the Beatles' lesser known tracks, and get it shipped right to your door.
Now, if they want it signed, how do you go about that?
If you want it signed, probably best way to do that, you can contact me probably through my Facebook page, my writers page, which is called Kid O'Toole's Keynotes. You can just search for that on Facebook. Send me a private message, and I can ship it to you direct, and I can sign it for you. So
I like your profile picture of the flowers. What flower is that on your profile?
those are hibiscus, and those are actually from my house, which I'm sitting right now on the patio, and the hibiscus are right from my patio.
And I was going to say, you know what? You got a lovely garden there, and not only
Thank
that,
you.
because you got the headphones, the sound is coming through better than half the interviews I do.
Wow, thank you. Yeah, these
Laptop
are,
you're using? Is that a laptop?
and so yeah, it's a laptop.
Okay, this is what I need to tell people in advance. Thank you. If you get invited to come on the Plastic EP TV internet show, the first preference is a computer laptop because you can use a phone. I did an interview yesterday with Frank Velez.
Yeah.
One of my friends knows everything about the monkeys. And unfortunately, he froze during the interview. And I just kept talking. But that seems to be the future too, because it reminded me of the Thunderbirds. You know, when you go in the 60s show and they've got panels of the wall of pictures of guys? That's going to be the future where I'll say, how you going, kid? And you'll pick your favorite picture and just put it there, and there's no movement, and the eyes will flick and we'll talk. So in other words, it'll be me here, and I won't move, and my eyes will blink. And I'll be like this. And there'll be no voice. My voice will be talking, but my lips will be sealed. You go, blink, 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 blink. That's how it's going to be in the future, believe me.
Awesome content.
It's happening. Have a look at that interview. He freezes.
Oh, no.
Then he comes out of the freeze, then goes back into the freeze. It's amazing. I actually like it. I'm thinking now if I get up 4 a.m., I'll get a picture of myself, put it there, and I'll be talking the audio, but the vision will be this.
Oh, no.
And I'll do the interview. Yeah. All right, listen. We've got to get on the second book now. We can't talk about technology.
Yes.
This Michael Jackson book fascinates me. So let's have a look at the front cover. That's a really nice cover too. How hard is it to get the picture for that book? I don't know what's involved legally to get a photo to put on the book. How does that work?
Yeah, I had to go to there are, certain websites like Shutterstock and places that have licensed pictures. And so I went through those and looked for photos that were affordable and were the kind of picture that I thought would be striking for the cover image. And I found this one from his Bad Tour from '88. And as soon as I saw that, I thought, yeah, that is a classic Michael pose. They're up on the toes, the tiptoes, just a classic Michael dance pose. And so I thought that's the one. And so that's what happened. So I was really happy when I was able to get the license to use this. So yeah, and then on the back cover, this is actually a ticket stub I was able to get from a series of concerts he did also on that same tour, and was this Wembley Stadium. Which were some of the big concerts, some of the most notable concerts he did on that tour. He did a series of them in Wembley. It sold them all out, of course. And so he was at the height of his powers back then. And so I was really excited. I got a ticket stub off of eBay. And so it was one of the prizes of my collection.
Exactly. Now, we're going to get into the book. I'll say hello to Raymond Williams who's come on. Now, with the book, what are we covering? If you have to describe your book before we start, it's questions and answers that you're going to. I know we're not going into the sensationalism and that, but if you had to give a synopsis of your book in 1 minute, what would you say?
It is a survey of his career from the Jackson 5 up until his death, and it's all about the development of his music, his artistry, and that goes from being a singer to the development of his songwriting and to his dancing, his acting, anything having to do with his artistry. And when I say everything, the subtitle here, all that's left to know about the King of Pop, that pretty much sums it up. It's everything you want to know about his artistry.
Do you know I got first cousins, right? Angela, Vula, and Nikki. Now, they're all Michael Jackson, but they're between Michael Jackson and Boy George.
Oh, nice.
And they're watching this show. I made sure I sent them a text and I said, Michael Jackson's on. We're talking about Michael Jackson's book. And I said, we've got Kid O'Toole and she'll be talking about Michael Jackson.
Oh, hello. Always great to talk to fellow fans.
No, they're Michael Jackson. I might be Monkeys and Beatles, but they're Michael Jackson. The Beatles don't exist in their world, believe me.
Well, and this was fun to write because I grew up with Michael Jackson, and in fact, I've liked to say that actually, in a way, Michael introduced me to the Beatles because I remember when "The Girl Is Mine" came out, and then "Say," and I bought Paul's Pipes of Peace album, the first Paul McCartney, because of Michael.
I got that here exactly. You say the right thing at the right time. But not only that, I want to talk just briefly about the fantastic story. Look at that. You just shoot me right in.
Yep. There we go. Yep, that's the first Paul album I ever owned. Absolutely. And all because of Michael.
And this one's mint and never played.
Wow.
Never played it since I bought it.
No kidding.
It's true. Now, the story that I like where Paul talks and he said, we're recording, and I thought I'd give some friendly advice to Michael being older. I told him about songwriting, publishing, and then I don't know, he kept saying, I'm going to buy your songs. I'm going to buy your songs. And he goes, yeah, Michael, sure. And then they keep going and he goes, I want to buy your songs. I want to buy your songs. Well, I can't get that high. Yeah. And he goes, sure, Michael. And then he finds out that he bought his songs. Yeah. That is a story that's mind-blowing.
It is.
More about that?
Yep. And you know what? I don't write about that in the book, but I will say this.
Please, tell me what you know. I'm interested.
I whenever I talk about this, I really try to set the record straight that I cannot tell you how many times when I've been at Beatle conventions, fan conventions, when I hear Michael stole Paul's songs. No, he didn't. Nobody stole anything. Okay. What happened was that, and it's too long and complicated a story to get on here. We'd be on like probably 2 more hours if we got into the whole story. But basically, the Beatles catalog came up for sale in about like 85, I think it was. And Michael saw, that it was up for sale. And his attorney contacted Yoko Ono and Paul McCartney's lawyer and said, are you planning on bidding for it? And, we've heard varying stories that Yoko and Paul were thinking about going in on it together. But Paul, both of them felt the asking price was too high and thought they could bargain it down. Now, why they thought that, I'll never understand. This is the Beatles catalog. This is the Rolls Royce of music catalogs. Why they thought they could bargain them down, I will never, ever understand. And so they were going back and forth about this. So finally, meanwhile, Michael is saying, I'll pay whatever the asking price is, because of course he knew. I mean, this was invaluable. So his lawyer called, and Yoko said no. They had decided not to buy it, that they felt the asking price was too high. Now, at the time, she was friends with Michael. And in fact, those of you might remember there was a movie that came out in '88 called Moonwalk, or Moonwalker, excuse me. And Sean Lennon was in it. He had a small part in it. So they were friends at the time. And supposedly Yoko even said to Michael's lawyer, well, at least a friend will have the catalog, something like that. He then talked to Paul's lawyer, who said, no, too expensive, we're not bidding on it. So Michael did, So when, was it nice on a friendship level that Michael did that? That's of course debatable. But it was fair and square. I mean, he bought it. So whenever I hear this, he stole the songs, he didn't. I mean,
it was kid. They don't give you songs for free. Okay, that's the first thing. And the second thing is, right, I just want to say, this is the story that I understand it. Mm-hmm. News Corp, Rupert Murdoch owned it. Mm-hmm. Is that right?
I don't know if Rupert Murdoch ever owned it.
No, but I'm saying he owned News Corp.
Yeah. I'm not sure. I'm trying to remember if News Corp was ever involved. I'm not sure, because it was so complicated.
Okay, I just want to say, I don't know that. That's a question mark. But what I do know is, when they sold the catalog, one of the relatives here in Australia or something wanted to keep the song Penny Lane. Is that correct? And keep it as a gift. You have to go on the net and check. But I believe they left that one song on the catalog because they loved that song so much they held on to it. Have you heard that?
I have not heard that. Yeah, I'll tell you, this has been... It is such a complicated. Yeah, I'll have to check it out. It is such a complicated story, and the fact is, the Beatles back in the '60s when they signed the contract, they were definitely screwed in the publishing contract, as many bands were. I mean that I'm not excusing it, but many bands were, and they basically did not own the publishing rights to their songs, and so. That's what happened. And the fact of the matter is, Paul had the opportunity to buy the songs, and
they came back to him anyway. Now they've come back to him anyway.
Yeah, and that is very secretive. It's really, and we haven't heard much about it, have we? There was, I think, a couple of years ago, there was something, and they said they've settled out of court or something for an undisclosed sum, and then that was all hushed up. So it's very interesting. I wonder if we're going to hear more in the future, but so far it's all been hush hush and very very interesting. But basically, as I understand it, Michael Jackson's estate sold their share of the catalog back to Sony. Yeah. So it is what a long. Talk about a long and winding road. That certainly was.
Exactly. Perfect song title. Now, I just want to say, ATV owned the rights to the 251 Beatles songs, including Hey Jude, Yesterday, and Let It Be.
Yes.
Right? Mm-hmm. So we're going to find out who owned ATV, and then we'll know. But as I said,
yep,
it's fascinating, that story in itself.
It really is, but yeah, I'm glad you brought it up, because I always like to clear that up, because I cannot tell you how many times, when I've been at Beatles conventions or been interviewed, and I hear, well, didn't Michael steal the songs? No, he didn't. It was, he bought them fair and square.
How do you come up with steal songs when it cost I don't know how many millions of dollars to buy them?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, as I said, maybe it wasn't the nicest thing on a friendship level. I will say that, but it was business.
Well, it says here on the net it was $47.5 million, which I haven't got that in loose change. So,
Yeah, I don't have that handy.
Hang on a minute. I'll just ask my wife, Vicky, have you got $47.5 million I can have to go and buy the songs?
No go, huh?
I'm lucky to get an allowance.
Yeah.
That's another joke I got. You know, we were talking before about clues.
Mhm.
We referred to something about clues.
Yes.
I love my wife. I always get a fifth of the story. And the other
Yeah.
4 fifths are missing. And I've got to work it out in my head. What is she telling me? You know that song, Looking for Clues? There's a
Yes.
song called Looking
Robert
for Clues.
Palmer. Yeah.
Exactly. Well, that's the perfect example of communication between me and my wife. When she tells me something, I get a quarter of the story and I have to do the research in my head. What is the other 4 fifths that are left out? I had to say that. It's a running joke. Now back to Michael Jackson. Let's hear about the Michael Jackson book.
Yep. So, it also has a lot of images in it from my collection, and I have to share with you one of my favorite images in the book. And this is about, I'm sure all of you remember his first solo hit, Ben, from 72. And when Ben came out, you may remember it was from a movie. It was the title from a movie. The movie's been pretty much long forgotten, but the song became an enormous hit. Now, if you may remember, the movie was actually a horror movie about killer rats. And
It's
when you,
fantastic, isn't it?
yeah, and when you listen to the song, if you haven't seen the movie, you would never know that. I mean,
Isn't that? I'm sorry, he did Ben. That was the name of a rat, was it?
yes, yep, that was the name of like the head of the killer rats. I think it was named Ben.
And the song
So
goes, Ben, the two of us. Yeah, I remember.
yeah,
it.
exactly. It's this sweet sounding song, and when you
Isn't
first
that
hear,
lovely? I didn't know it was about a rat.
yeah, it is. It's about a rat, and when you first hear it, yeah, you think, oh, isn't this a sweet song about friendship? And no, it's about a boy and it is about a boy and his rat friend, but it's a killer rat. So when the song became a major hit, Motown thought, oh man, we've got to capitalize on this. So Michael had been, in addition to recording with the Jackson 5, they also wanted to, Motown thought, hey, we've got to promote him as a solo artist too. So he had been recording some stuff in Motown. So they were like, let's assemble an album. We got to strike while the iron is hot. So they put together this album, but they thought, all right, we've got to make sure everybody knows that the lead single here is from the movie. So they had this great idea, and I hope you guys can see it. Let's see if
I can see it up a little bit. Up. Right there.
There we go. Okay.
Right there. Perfect.
Now, you see this wonderful little, picture, thoughtful, pensive picture of Michael up above. And then underneath, they superimpose this rat and all these other killer rats. Now, the record company sent this out, Motown, and the stores said, this isn't really selling because this image is freaking people out. and it looks even more gruesome in person. And I searched everywhere because I knew I had to have the rat cover. I had to have this for my book.
You
And
can change the name to the plague.
Yeah, exactly. And I'll tell you, I mean, it is creepy in person. So Motown frantically, recalled. It was kind of like the Butcher cover with the Beatles.
Exactly.
Yeah, the Motown recalled, all the covers, and lo and behold,
that's better.
They sent back much better, isn't it?
Have you got the rat cover?
I do. I have the rat cover.
You got the album.
I do. Yep.
How rare is that now?
And so I had to search for it, and I got it through a collector, and that is my pride and joy of my collection. Not because it's such a pretty image, but I'm like, I have to get the rat cover. I mean, how can I not have that? So
do you know, I never heard of the rat cover until you came on.
Yep.
You learn something every day.
You do. So yeah, I mean, how can you not buy this wonderful image of Michael with these huge rats?
Have you framed the album in the lounge room?
I should, shouldn't I? I
I
gotta.
reckon you should.
Yeah, I mean, it
That's
is.
a talking point.
Yeah, exactly. So
And when the exterminator comes in to kill rats, you just point to it and go, I've got the album.
yeah, exactly. I mean, it is creepy, and so yeah, the record store said this isn't selling; it's creeping people out, and so yeah, so I have little. That's what I wanted to do in this book. That of course I wanted to have the big stuff, but I wanted to have little like curiosities like that people may not know about.
That's big. That's not a small thing. That's fascinating to me.
Yeah, good. Yep, and that's what I wanted. And another thing too is I have things like ultimate playlists at the end of chapters where I put like songs that I thought about. Okay, if I were introducing Michael Jackson to somebody who had never heard of him, what are the kinds of songs, like if I were to put together a playlist, you know would I include? And I was on a Michael Jackson podcast some time ago, and the host said, well, I wouldn't have put those tracks on, and I said, good. That's what I want. I want people to read this book and spark a debate, a conversation, because that's half the fun, isn't it? I mean, when you're debating whether it's the Beatles or the Monkees
Exactly.
or whatever,
I love it.
yeah, that's half the fun. And so that's what I wanted to do with this book. There's also a really cool foreword in here from Steve Lukather of Toto. And he played on the Thriller album. And in fact, and I didn't fully realize this until I wrote this book, that Toto was basically the backing band on Thriller, and probably didn't get as much credit as they deserved.
I didn't even know that.
Yes, they were. And in fact,
I didn't know that.
Yep. They were basically the backing band. Quincy Jones, who of course produced the album, loved Toto. And at the time, Toto was like the studio band, like the top studio band. Even as they had their own career, I mean, they had their own hits at the time. I mean, like just the top. And so Quincy, being Quincy Jones, he could get them. And so they basically were the backing band. And Steve Lukather revealed to me that other than, on the song Beat It, which is one of my favorites on Thriller, yep, of course, other than the Eddie Van Halen guitar solo, like the big solo in the middle, the rest of the guitar parts are basically Steve.
That's great. But you know what? If they invited myself, Plastic EP, and Charles Rosenay, we could have played maracas and tambourine on the album. No problem.
Right. There you go.
We would have done that, wouldn't we, Charles?
You sure could, or sung backup, Mama Say, Mama Sa, Mama Kusa,
That's unreal. Actually, we were looking for opportunities. Anybody recording their albums out there needs a bit of help, just call Charles and I and we'll come there.
Backup singing.
We'll help spend the budget. As long as the budget is over $1 million, just call us in and we'll tell you how to spend the money.
There you go. So yeah, so that's what I love, because I wanted to do a straightforward book about his career and all, but I loved finding things like that, just things that you might not know.
Amazing.
About his career. So yeah, it was fun to write, and just I love learning stuff like that.
Kit, now we got to go over where they can get everything from you and about the magazine and whatever. So let's say if this is the first time they've seen you and they want more, because I can't believe, first of all, and people don't know this, you're a Beatles fan, you're a Michael Jackson fan, and you're a Monkees fan.
Yep.
So what's at number one? What's at number two? And what's at number three?
Oh my gosh!
I'll do you like. You got to tell us.
My gosh, probably Beatles number one. Beatles
and
number one. Two. Gosh, boy, that's hard.
Well, how's it hard? It's the Monkees or Michael Jackson.
Oh my God!
It's a 50% answer.
Yep. I guess I'd say Michael number two. Michael number two.
Thank you for that, Kit.
Monkees, very close three. Very, very close.
What? The rat made the difference.
Yeah, exactly. It's the rat that exactly the rat put Michael over. That's right.
All right, so Kit, where do they find these books again? And hold them up and tell me where they find everything.
All right. Well, the books you can find on Amazon. As I said before, just you can either look me up, Kid O'Toole, or you can search Michael Jackson FAQ, or you can search. Let me hold up the other one again. Songs we were singing. Guided tours to the Beatles' lesser known tracks. You can just look up those, or as I said, you can look me up. Just look up my name, and these books will show up. You can also find me on the web at kitotoole.com. You can also find me on Facebook, as I mentioned earlier. Kit O'Toole's Keynotes is my writer page, and you can also find me under just Kit O'Toole. I have a personal page on there as well. I am also a contributing editor for Beatle Fan magazine, and if you want to subscribe, which I highly recommend, it's a great magazine, you can go to BeatleFan.com. I'm also a co-host, and in fact, Plastic, you've interviewed at least one of my co-hosts, Ken Michaels. I'm a co-host of Talk More Talk, a solo Beatles video cast. We are on every other Monday. We talk about the solo years of the Beatles. A lot of fun. And we broadcast live every other Monday. So you can go to our Facebook page, Talk More Talk, a solo Beatles video cast. We have lots of fun on that show. And you can find us also, if you don't want to watch us live, you can watch our archive show on there. We are also on YouTube, and the audio version is on Podbean, Spotify, you name it. We're everywhere. You can't get away from us. And you can also find my writing on for the Beatles. You can find me on somethingelse.reviews.com, and you can find my writing on Michael Jackson and many other soul artists on blindedbysound.com. And I think that's everything. So you can't get away from me. I'm everywhere.
You know, Kit, when I get invited to your show,
Absolutely. We would love it.
we'll have a lot to discuss because I'm a wealth of knowledge, as you found out today.
We'd love it. That'd be a lot of fun.
And I've got to thank you so much for doing your preparation. You knew that question was coming.
I knew it was coming. Hey, I always do my homework, Plastic. Absolutely.
I can't thank you enough. It was a great interview.
I had a great time.
I learned a lot of things.
Good.
Seriously.
Oh, I'm so glad. Well, it was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it.
I've got to leave in a minute to put rat poisoning around my house. I got the exterminator coming at 12 o'clock.
All right. Yep. Good idea. Good idea.
I'm glad you get it. All right. We had a fun. I really enjoyed it. So from Plastic EP and Kid O'Toole, just fantastic. Your knowledge is unbelievable.
Thank you.
3 people, the Beatles, Michael Jackson, and you like the monkeys. That's fantastic. All right, all the best from us. See you soon.